Now, I said Peter Dutton had Woolworths on the run over its ban on Australia Day. Here's more evidence. A leaked letter to Woolworths staff from its boss, Brad Banduccis, that suggests his own staff are unhappy and question his double standards. And he explains, well, why do we put up banners for other cultural events of significance like Lunar New Year, the Chinese one, or the Hindu Diwali, but not our own national day? Well, celebrations like Diwali and Lunar New Year are often centred around connection over food. And as a business, we are committed to supporting occasions like this for our customers and team. Joining me is the panel, James Macpherson and Liz Storer, both of the Late Debate, here on Sky News at 10 p.m. But James, so the ban on Australia Day is explained by the fact that Woolworths is really about selling food. But why does Diwali get in-store signs to sell the food and Australia Day does not when it comes to, say, selling lamb chops? What does that letter tell you?
Exactly. Does the boss of Woolworths imagine that we don't celebrate Australia Day with food? All of Australia Day is built around a barbecue. In fact, their own brochures this week advertised, this is a Woolworths brochure, celebrate Australia Day with sausages and lamb chops. And so this is just a classic case of gaslighting. I mean, he's trying to sell this as a commercial decision, right? If it was a commercial decision, why did they first consult their Indigenous Advisory Board? Do they consult the
Correct.
Indigenous Advisory Board on all of their commercial decisions? And if it was a commercial decision, it's sure turned out to be a bad one. They've had to spend an inordinate amount of money on full-page advertisements to apologise, to explain, and we haven't even started talking about the effect of the boycott upon their sales.
Honestly, Liz, the Woolworths checkout staff that Albanese today gave a shout-out to, they said they were on $40,000 a year, they don't represent the kind of people that'll be thrilled by their own shop banning Australia Day. I think Banduccis is now freaking out.
I've got to say, I feel sorry for Banduccis, Andrew, because this man is simply a pawn in a much bigger man's game. As I've said repetitively while Woolworths has been copping a shellacking, you've got to look at their stakeholders, and their two biggest shareholders are BlackRock and Vanguard. Guys like Brad Banduccis are simply following orders. He doesn't get to make calls like this. Those guys, BlackRock and Vanguard, are the world's largest asset managers. They're the world's biggest money managers. And that means they control a lot more of what goes on in our world than we can possibly imagine. Yes, including what happens at our local Woolies. This guy is simply a pawn, and I believe him when he very apologetically faced the press yesterday and said, I'm a first-generation Aussie. I'm proud. I'll be celebrating the day. You can see the guns held to this guy's head. This was not his call. Just like flying the flags, the Indigenous flags outside of Woolworths is not his call, which is in their reconciliation action plan. What is a supermarket having one of those plans for? It's utterly absurd. What was a supermarket doing championing constitutional change last year? People need to understand this is part of the global agenda that we've seen sweep across the US, the UK, this self-hatred in our previously proud Western nations. It is coming from a much stronger force than little old Brad Banduccis, trust me.
Well, I don't know. I just think it's a cultural manifestation, this self-hatred among the elites. That sort of thing's been going for quite a while. Rudyard Kipling wrote a poem about it. James, to more promising news in this culture. Well, there's equally, I mean, you've got Banduccis on the run. Kim Williams might have the ABC on the run. Now, Labor appointed Kim Williams, son-in-law to the late Gough Whitlam, a Labor Prime Minister, so they might have thought, oh, well, this is one of us is going to keep it, the ABC still left-wing is, you know. But I reckon he could turn out to be a big enemy of ABC leftism because you look at Williams on the ABC last night talking about the allegations, which I think are extremely well-founded, of anti-Israel bias on the ABC is about to be the chairman of. Here he is.
Has there been a bias in our reporting so far on this issue?
Look, I'm not going to comment on current editorial directions and editorial content. I think it's highly inappropriate that I do that. All matters of editorial, it is imperative that the ABC reliably adheres to principles of integrity, independence, and a continuous aspiration, to the extent possible in human affairs, for freedom from bias. It is fundamental to the Charter and the remit of the ABC that it reliably adheres to those three principles.
In fact, he mentioned that he was going to crack down on bias, or about, I think, 4 times in that interview. And the thing is, Williams, while he said, I'm not going to comment on that issue, he went on to talk about bias a couple of times. He's actually declared himself a lifelong friend of Israel, has worked with the Israel Chamber Orchestra as a composer. I've spoken to him. He believes in the concept of Western civilization. And the ABC, I think, which seems not to, could be in for a rude shock, James.
Yeah, someone's going to be surprised here, aren't they, Andrew? Either Kim Williams is going to be surprised to find the staff actually run the joint, or the ABC staff will be surprised to find, no, they don't. Williams will run the place. And I was really impressed with that interview. He talked about the need for accountability at the ABC because it is a creation of Parliament and therefore it has a special responsibility to the public. He spoke about the need for the ABC to react properly to criticism. He talked specifically about the need to be calm and measured, which I felt was a direct comment on some of the crazy reactions we've had from ABC journalists to criticism. But most interestingly, he spoke about social media, and he talked about how unwise it was for ABC journalists to put their own opinions out there at the expense of their, he called it, an institutional responsibility to the ABC. And he explained the ABC is a special institution because it's a creation of the Parliament and it's responsible to the public. And in light of everything that's been happening with Antoinette Lattouf right now, I thought that was a fairly direct remark to ABC staff, putting them on notice that perhaps things will change.
Well, Lattouf got sacked after she tweeted anti-Israel stuff against orders. In this interview, the new chairman said flamboyant tweets, they've got to resist that kind of stuff. Flamboyant was his word. I actually think, Liz, this could be very, very interesting.
Hope springs eternal, Andrew, but I'll believe it when I see it. All Kim Williams really showed us in that interview that you've just showed a clip of is that he's read their charter. And he can quote what they're supposed to be, which is currently everything that we're not. So far, I think Kim shows every sign of having a message for everyone, telling people what they want to hear. We know that 200 staff at the ABC recently passed a vote of no confidence in their managing director, a move that Ida Buttrose called abhorrent and incorrect. Well, within minutes of her saying that, the incoming chair, Williams, said, no, actually, I think it would be very incorrect not to pay close attention to them. These are the people who have threatened walkouts over this ridiculous Antoinette Lattouf affair. So I don't know. I think he seems to be a bit two-faced already, off the mark, but he knows his audience. He knows who he's talking to. And I'm still not convinced, Andrew, that this wasn't a captain's pick from Anthony Albanese to flip the bird, so to speak, to News Corp, because we all know that over 10 years ago, he was CEO here for less than 2 years, after which he resigned. And I'm more than happy for the ABC to have our scraps, but I wouldn't be surprised because he wasn't even on the list of the 3 maybes.
No, Liz,
it just came out of nowhere.
I accept your caution. He's a chairman, it's not the managing director, and they've been snowed before, but I don't know. He believes in Western civilization. He's a classical music composer. I think the ABC might be in for a little 240 volts.
I just think if the mighty Morris Newman couldn't turn that place around, which granted was over 10 years ago, if Morris Newman couldn't turn that place around, I don't know if there's any hope for it, unless Kim goes in there and literally guts the place.
Liz Thorra, James Macpherson, good luck on the show tonight. Thank you so much.